Okay. All right. So I'll try and cover a bit of Pandas operations here. So essentially, what I'll do is cover some basic stuff using Pandas. Pandas is a very nice library found in Python, and what you can do with that is that you can do a lot of data wrangling. So I'll cover some basics with you so that essentially, I think the best way is really as per normal, just to demonstrate to you how it works and what I find works really well for my case. So as with anything, let's just try it with a data set. So I have here, okay, so over here, as you can see here, I have this script, and then I have downloaded something called victims of selected major offenses by age group. So first, as per normal, we will often, let me restart and clear output first. So one of the things we want to do is we want to open the pandas library, import the pandas library. For this one, we'll set the maximum number to none. For this use case, you can do that, but uh, I wouldn't recommend it if your data set is particularly heavy on the number of rows it has. Okay, so this is the data set that we have. I've collected it from this place. You can just go and Google it for yourself. Where to find it is found on the government website with statistics of victims of major selected offenses. It has three important columns: year, level 1, which tells you the type of offenses; level 2 tells you the age group; and the column called value will give you the number. That means the number of persons who are victims of a particular major crime itself. So the first step to do is always to inspect your data. So let's just so when you use pandas, you can always use something called read CSV. They are depending on the type of data you have. You may have a Excel file, then it will be read underscore Excel, or if you have a pickle file, then you will just read as pickle. So not to worry, I'll go through with you about it quite shortly. So when you do this, you're opening this as a variable called df, and there you go. So you have all the rows containing the year, victim type, no, the crime type, the victim's demographic information, and how many in that category. So yeah, so this statistics across 10 years of data. So from the 20, oh no, I think around 9 years. Yeah, my bad. So very 2011 to 2022. Okay, maybe it's around 10 years. So one of the things you can do, which is in pandas operation, is you can do a group by. So group by, what it does is essentially you just decide, okay, I want to see the level 1 and level 2, and then I want to see the sum of the values in each of these categories. That means I want to ignore the number of years. I want to see like across all 10 years, how many total victims of murder there are above the age of 21. And this value will be added for 2021, 2011 all the way to 2020. Yeah. So this is what it does. So you group by, you select two of your variables here, and then then you put this is essentially to signal that you want to look at the value, then dot sum. But this will depends on your use case, on a case by case, on whatever kinds of analysis you want. So you may want to choose a group by value, group by sum. You can choose a group by mean, or you can choose a group by count. It depends on what you want to do. So I would strongly recommend you to go and Google on Stack Overflow what kind of things you want to try and do with your data set. So you run this. So there you go. So you can have level 1, level 2. And you realize the numbers are quite big. It's because they aggregate over 10 years. So that's essentially it. Pardon me. So now, next thing you want to look at level 1. Then if you notice, what you can do is you can actually get, with value counts, you can get like for every category, how many instances of that category appears in the data set. So in this case, you can see that if it appears here once 40 times, it's because there is actually 4 demographic categories for the category of this one. total victims of murder, then they're 10 years. So that's how you get 40. And you get the same for all, because that's how the data is structured in this case. So as with many things, I would suggest that if you want to explore more, you can explore how value counts and how group by works. They'll be very, very useful when you come and do stuff like you want to figure out how was the frequency of certain things happening in your data, or what are the groupings that look like. So this is one very these two combined together, they can be very flexible and very powerful for your usage. So how can we split files? Okay, so this is something that I found it to be particularly useful because in some cases your file size may be very big that it will load into a particular program, or sometimes you may need to do batching as a result, because essentially you just need to lower the batch size so that you can have your computer may be able to easily open the file, because really your file is just too big. So one of the things you can do is you can take a file like this. Okay, then next thing you want to do is you probably want to split them. So one of the ways to split them, maybe in this case, is you can split by category. So I run this. So give me all the possible categories there are. Then let me just run this to show you what it does. So so over here, I have decided, okay, maybe I want to cut the data. I want to like split the data out into various files which contains the total every category. So one data frame would have coverage from 2011 all the way to 2020, and that will be one file. And maybe the next category will get its own file, so on and so forth. So that's this is a for loop. That's how it works. So it loops through the entire range of values to get that to essentially do a particular thing that you want to do. So, so one of the things you can do is you can pickle a file. So this is how you can pickle the file. Usually you would you need to use a pandas data frame. Then you add a dot to pickle at the back. Yeah. So one of the things you can do is you can either do this. That means for every category, you do your filter, and with that filtered data frame, you pickle that accordingly. There's also nothing to stop you if you do this. We have 2 is equal to this category. And if you decide that, yeah, so you can do this. So essentially, you're just using a data frame to pickle, or you can save it as an Excel file if you want. Then it will become to Excel or to CSV. And you have to change this thing accordingly. One of the things I do note for after many rounds of playing with this kind of data is you probably want to set your compression to XZ is because it compresses your file. Imagine you have a lot of words in the file. Yeah, this will help compress it down by quite a bit and make it easier for you to transfer. Then it also means that you probably want to open it with compression equal XZ. If not, there will be an error. And I would set it to protocol 4 because from what I understand is that when I upload it to Google Drive, right now it is at protocol 4. So if you auto set it, if you remove protocol 4, usually most computers would have their own protocol at protocol 5, and that's why you have a compatibility issue when you send a particular H5 file to Google Drive, and you try and open it there using Colab. So yeah, this is what I'll recommend. This is all very, I would say, bounded kind of advice because they are advice that works because it's this current time and day. This may change across the years, or this may change as there's more improvements made to Google Colab, or possibly even Jupyter Notebook or Python. But yeah, so my recommendation is choose a compression format and then choose your protocol. I currently would prefer to do this. So if I run this, so let's look over here. So you notice suddenly there's a lot of these H5 files. Because what it did is you split you take a file, the data frame, you split them into the various categories, and then you save them as a H5 file, as you can see over here. So that's another way of doing things. Okay, so then you might think, okay, that's one way of doing things. What if I want to combine files? Maybe this can happen if you're doing a lot of data collection and then you decide to save them as a pickle file. Because after all, if you pickle a file, it's also going to be more compressed than, let's say, if you put them in a CSV or JSON format. Then you realize, hey, maybe you have like, I don't know, a gajillion files. Okay, maybe not so extreme. Maybe you got like 50 over files. Okay, then just do this. This is actually the same concept. So imagine if I open a file called unknown victims. You can find it here. So I'll run this. So I have that section on unknown victims. So, and then I open another file for this, which is for male victims of serious hurt. So one of the things I can do is to concat. So concat essentially just adds the first this data frame and this data frame together, one on top of the other. So you can run this, and there you go. This is how you can combine files. And concat is actually very powerful in pandas, so definitely it's worth your time to go and look at the various ways you can concat your files, especially if they are of a very different kind of types. So this is one of the easiest types because essentially all the columns are the same across both data frames. Concat can work when essentially you have different, let's say this, let's say there's a missing, I don't know, there's an additional column here. So this is then you will find that they will, when you combine both of them, then in both cases you will have a probably a combined data frame where there is one extra column. Let's say if over here it has one extra column, maybe you have an ethnicity column for this particular data frame, whereas over here you don't have an ethnicity column. So yeah, when you combine these two, then in the combined data frame you have an ethnicity column, but then for those unknown victims there will be appear as NA. So this is how you combine files using the concat function. Very powerful. So definitely try and use them. Then you can run. Then the thing is, as I said before, if you have like, if you have a lot of this, then it becomes really tedious to do this over and over and over again. So one of the simplest way is to use this method. Essentially, you import log. So what it does is it looks for all the files with the H5. Then you run this. Okay. This is one way of saying, okay, these are all the H5 files you want. Then the next thing you do is you want to make sure that they are all, that means you want the computer to do this. Take this one, combine with this one, then with this combined version, then add this one, then this one in sequential order. So this is what this part does. So that the for loop will scroll through this. So it adds everything to a list. So you have a list of all the DFs, and it will concat the whole list of DFs together. So, and there you go. Everything is here. So you have with concat, you have concatenated all the data frames together. Then if you want, you can pickle them accordingly. So here you go. And that's pretty much it. So hope this helps you get started on very basic Panda operations. For a more thorough in-depth one, just I'll just do it in another video, because I also realize some of the data I have may not be open source. So this is one of those open source data. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.